and action. Welcome, everybody. This is PnP Weekly, episode 161. It is now 8th of April. We're doing actually this recording in two different pieces because Waldek has a family thing to attend on Monday, which is the typical recording time. So we're doing the articles on Friday and then the interview on Monday and then release on Tuesday, like we typically do. But in the PnP Weekly, we talk about the latest in Microsoft 365 platform, focusing on the platform, but of course, a bit more broader than that, because knowing the platform and being able to build stuff you actually need, it's good to understand the other areas as well. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a program manager in the Microsoft 365 platform and ecosystem areas, focusing on community and open source and all of that. Trying to figure out what I actually do. This is hard.
What am I doing? Who am I? It's Friday. Who am I?
And with me as a co-host is
Hey everybody, my name is Waldek Mastykarz and I'm cloud developer advocate for Microsoft 365 at Microsoft.
Excellent. So this time we wanted to actually re-invite one of our friends in the call to talk about his updates on his career and focus on the community side as well. So David Warner joined pretty recently on the Power Platform community team. We're going to talk about that and then also focusing on our Microsoft 365 platform community batching process, batching acknowledgement model, and how we're sharing batches on the different models and how people can actually achieve those batches and get recognized by the community for their efforts. But let's actually, with further ado, is that a saying? Without the further ado, I'm trying to figure out what that actually means. I know that it's a saying, but anyway, it doesn't mean anything. English is interesting. Anyway, let's jump on the interview with David and then we do the articles.
Because a donkey bridge is so logical, right?
Yeah, the donkey bridge is same as Segway in Dutch and in Finnish, so which is still I don't understand how that's possible. But anyway, let's jump on the interview and come back on the articles right after that. So welcome, David Warner, as a Microsoft employee to the PnP Weekly, episode 161. Unfortunately, Waldek cannot make this interview. He has though met you before, right? So it's not that big.
Once or twice, I think we maybe talked here and there.
Yes, totally. Exactly. But now, for those who do not know who you are, so can you talk about a brief, David? Who are you? What do you do for living?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is David Warner. I'm a senior program manager or community program manager here in Microsoft. I am on the Power Platform community team, so reporting to Heather Newman on a fantastic team with Kelly Kay, Anna Chu, and Pedro Sacramento. We're going to be we care for the community around Power Platform, so Power BI, PVA, Power Automate, Power Apps, D365, and of course soon to be other technologies as well. So very excited to be on the team. This is my 4th week that I'm starting, so getting a little bit of air from the water.
So you're already kind of learn how to swim, because quite typically what happens is you get thrown to the lake and it's like, oh, have fun. So you can deal with that. So
yeah, exactly. I think I figured out how to swim, but just knowing where land is still kind of part of the problem, right? Like, where do I go? More events on my calendar in 4 weeks than I've ever seen. So just where you're trying to figure things out is like which ones are must attends, which ones are not, because oftentimes they conflict. So you just got to understand and learn the landscape awareness, but that comes with time.
And then you get triple or quarter booked on a same time, and it's like, oh, and then as a new employee, of course, it's like, well, you want to make a good impression for everybody, but then it's just realities of life where you need to prioritize your time as well. So.
Yep. If I bring up 2, then the conversations gets confused. Or who are you talking to, right? It's impossible. Would be worse.
Yes. Now, you were MVP before you joined Microsoft for a while, and one of the things which we work together, which is super exciting, is it has been the community side of the house, and you've been also leading leading, is that the right way of saying that? Coordinating, maybe, is the better way of saying that. And the recognition program for our Microsoft 365 platform community. Can you talk about a bit on the background of that? Because that's really the key topic of the day. So how did we came up with that, and what does it actually mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, coordinating with a great team, Hugo Bernier, Emily Mancini, April Dunham. So many have been involved now, which is really amazing. But if we kind of look at how it started out, when COVID started, we saw a number of community contributors getting some swag from a variety of different places, whether it be product groups or the MVP team or whatever. And we wanted to find a way that we could celebrate and recognize all the amazing work that the community had been doing overall, not just with a specific technology or a specific group, but just everything and anything in terms of contributions, whether it be writing a blog, helping with documentation, writing code, because I think historically that's been the stereotype, is to be a contributor, you have to be comfortable with curly braces and write code, which as you and I both know, that's completely not true. There are so many wide array of opportunities to contribute, and those all should be celebrated and recognized. So we thought, well, how could we start recognizing? We kind of initially start with what everyone else did, which was physical swag.
The T-shirts and mugs, and so Parker pictures are good, but there's a problem with that. So
yes, logistics, right? So how are we going to pay for all that stuff? How are we going to get it shipped everywhere when there's international issues around shipping and costs, and not only that, even if we covered the costs, we thought, well, we don't want someone to get a box of swag and then all of a sudden, because of customs or importing exporting issues, go, here's your awesome box of stuff, you owe us money. That would be like the worst thing ever, right?
What's in the box? I don't know. So
yeah, exactly.
The good example of this one, I still remember when I got awarded in Microsoft internally in 2008, and then the invitation came to Finland to me through the customs, and then the Finnish customs like, yeah, what's in the box? I don't know. But it's coming from Microsoft, so what did you bought? Nothing. Yeah, but what's in the box? I don't know. But you need to pay some taxes. And I said, yep, I had no idea. And that was for sure. We don't want to put people in that position where they need to just make the decision that should I pay or should I not pay? And then if they pay like whatever amount of money, and then they get a cup. Yay. So
yep, exactly. Oh yeah, a cup. I only had 27 of these already, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we just started brainstorming around where and what else could we do. And of course, just looking to be eco-friendly, of course, as well. And then being able to kind of pivot immediately or award immediately with very little time, we started looking at digital recognition. And really, as we know it right now, the recognition program is powered by Credly, partnering with Credly, which we'll talk about more as we go on here. It's not the first or only, I should say, it's not the only way in which we're wanting to recognize everyone. It's just really the first. And so there'll be potentially more to come. But we started looking, how could we get out of the gate right away in a very impactful way and test it and make sure the community actually wants it? Because that's the other thing that we wouldn't want, is just to have all this stuff thrown at the community where they maybe are like, yeah, this is great, but no thanks, right? And so then we started looking at the variety of ways in which we could do it. And we contacted Credly, and myself and Emily were actually part of that team that negotiated with Credly. And it was kind of ironic and funny because Credly, of course, is the company that handles the certifications for Microsoft. And so those badges are all, we already know them well. They're official, they're formal, they're tied back to an actual accreditation process. You can assign them to LinkedIn. And so really it's valuable, as we already knew, because we really have one of a few kinds of people in the community. And me coming from a consulting background, I understood and recognized this. You want to be able to show your influence in the community as an employee, as a consultant, that you're valuable.
Yep.
And so you're either trying to impress your clients, or you're trying to impress your manager, or as a consultant, you're trying to do both, right? Because you have your clients and your manager. And those kinds of recognitions and badges and all that assist with that, especially if it can be tied back to something formal and official that outlines exactly why you got it.
Yep.
And so Credly, of course, being in the business of making money, it was funny when we approached them. We said, we're a community. They said, well, you're the first ever community that's ever approached us about taking it to this level of formality.
That's actually pretty cool as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And I said, the funny thing is we're in a community full of developers. There's no problem for us to assemble everyone and create our own platform, but you already have this figured out. We'd love to partner with you. And it was funny because they said, well, we even have these white papers on on why it's better to buy than build, and this is where you should spend your dollars. And I kind of chuckled. I said, that's great if we had dollars, right? But we were able to negotiate in a way that that allowed it to work for the community, for Credly, for everyone, that didn't cost the community anything. So we started out with just a couple of badges at first, designed them, made sure that they kind of stayed within the design principles of Microsoft, and started socializing for the ability to sign up for the community. And then it took off, and now we've got a dozen or so badges, and we're continuing to build, and the community is loving it. They're being recognized and appreciated, which is great. And we're seeing some really heartfelt tweets, posts on LinkedIn about how they feel about receiving them.
And in Twitter and in Facebook even, so which is really, really cool. So it's for sure. And coming back on the value of what these certifications or acknowledgements actually provide, it's for sure, it's for customers and for employers. And let's face it, if you're looking into going to a new company, all of this that the acknowledgements, they do actually matter. In many cases, companies nowadays actually prefer to have people who are actively involved in the community, because with community you have networking connections, and all of that actually is really, really beneficial in the normal day-to-day business even. So it's actually a nice way of kind of like showing that you're actively part of the community by using those that what is the right term, that wow, English is hard. Yeah, the acknowledgements, recognition. No, English is hard. Wow. Anyway, there's a word for it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
we worked long enough so you understand what I actually.
Yeah. And even seeing to that point, even seeing organizations now putting on, like you said, not only looking for community, but a very specific, right? Like what involvement of PnP search do you have, or PnP PowerShell, or other initiatives within the community that they know are going to empower the community to do work faster, right? Because that's really what our initiatives are there for, is to assist the community to do more faster. And anybody can say that, right? Anybody can say, "Oh yeah, I've worked on that," and then you say the right, maybe right things, and maybe you are working on it, but the recognition program kind of provides that, like you said, that validation that I here I am working on it, and here's proof that I've been involved, and that helps. I know a number of managers that take that with a lot of weight.
Now, I know the answer obviously on this question, but how do we validate? How does this work? So basically, we're talking about an open source and community acknowledgement of contributing somewhere, but is there a validation? What is the qualification of getting these things? Because if it's community, not Microsoft owned, then is it easier to get it, or what's the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So of course we have to validate it in some way, shape, or form, right? And so obviously we use, not obviously, we obviously to us, we use GitHub for that. Now, not every badge is necessarily tied back to a GitHub pull request, and if you're not familiar with that, we'll give you an opportunity to become familiar with that in a couple minutes. But tying it back to the contributions that are done through GitHub. Now, that may sound like, ooh, again, you're saying developer stuff. Not necessarily. Blogs are driven by GitHub. Documentation is driven by GitHub. And so a number of the contributions are driven by GitHub. And so when folks from the community register for our recognition program, they give us their GitHub ID and their email address, and then we're able to run scripts. GitHub has an API, Credly has an API, and so we're starting to set up automation right now, still as we're kind of in the early years of it, if you will, early stages. Some of it's manual.
First decade. whenever we get to the second decade of this, then the next 10 years, then it will be fully automatic. So.
Right, exactly. So we're still, it's, but the automation process is there. We can get it automated. It's just, but so when folks provide that, then we're able to run regular scripts each month and identify when and where they worked on what platforms or what initiatives, and then we're able to send out those badges through Credly. And in some cases, like for example, it's still manual. Like we just created our demo or a presenter, community call presenter badge. That's a little more manual because that's not tied to anything in GitHub. But we have historical records and lists and stuff like that, so we can still kind of tie it. But yeah, it's a pretty easy process, and folks only need to register once. Not each year, even though we come up with new badges each year, unless they've changed, their ID or something like that, which doesn't happen very often.
Now, this is fun that I'm able to ask these questions from you. So, but now putting myself on the audience of the let's say the thinking of mindset of people who might be listening, there's then one of the questions is that, well, I come from a low code, no code side of the house. I'm not a developer, and this at least for now, this community seems to be called by Microsoft 365 Platform Community, and from there we're getting this badges and acknowledgement. Is that really for non-developers as well, or how does this work?
Yes, it's for everyone. Yes, absolutely. So, coming from a low code, no code perspective, and it is funny because even I was just in the Microsoft 365 conference last week, and Hugo and I had a class on what does no code, low code mean? What can it mean? A variety of things, right? We know there's code behind everything, but we also know that maybe starting out with no code is just being able to point and click, or maybe copy and paste, right? You look at list formatting, and you may not be comfortable with writing those list formatting definitions, but we have so many samples that are production worthy that you can start out using immediately, and all you need to do is copy and paste. And so yeah, the contributions can come from any degree of no code, low code, or what we've kind of called more code or mo code, right? Low code, no code, mo code. I like to write a lot more code, mo code. So yeah, the opportunity is there. And if you say, well, I have a lot of solutions or samples that I've created under the low code, no code umbrella, but I'm not quite sure how to provide those as a contribution. How would I go about doing that? I'm so glad you asked. And if you call now, we have, that's right, exactly. We have the Sharing is Caring initiative, which is really unlike any other community initiative. And I was telling someone this last week in Vegas that that's where it started. I remember sitting next to you in a PnP session, and you had come off stage, or you said something on stage about, we welcome contributions. We know that there might be some, roadblocks in the way for you to contribute, but all contributions are welcome. And that sparked in my mind, well, what is it that's preventing people from contributing? And it could be something like, GitHub is really weird. I don't know what fork or blame or raw means, right? I just want to submit samples. And I remember when you came off stage, I said, I got an idea, and we knew it wasn't scalable as soon as I told you, but we wanted to know if it would work. And I said, if I tweeted out that I will hand walk anyone in the world through their first contribution, would you support it, right? Because you had a platform at that point that you could help support it. And you said yes. And so we retweeted, or I tweeted, you retweeted me. And within hours, I had people DMing me. And I was getting up, I don't know, like crazy hours, because I wanted it to be easy for those that wanted to contribute, right? So I was getting up at 2 a.m. for those on the other side of the world. And I would actually go search, because the easiest contribution was finding a misspelling in documentation, because it's really easy. And most people didn't even know that they can help curate documentation. And so I would go find the mistakes, and I would bookmark it and save it, hope no one else fixed it, right? And then I would walk them through how to fix it. And after that, they were like, wow, I didn't know we could do this. So that's when we kind of started Sharing is Caring. And so little history there as well. Sharing is Caring now is a hands-on guidance opportunity. So anyone in the community can join our Sharing is Caring sessions, which have a spectrum of topics, right? A wide spectrum of topics. The first and probably most popular is your GitHub introductions. And so we have a basic GitHub introduction, and then we have a Power Platform first-time contributor introduction. And we're going to walk anyone who attends through hands-on contributing and making their first contribution or second, or maybe they just need some reminders, or they want to
repeat.
Tips.
Repeating is important. Yep.
Yeah, because if you only do it every so often, you do it just enough to forget sometimes. And so when you're getting ready to make a contribution, then I'd like some reminders, some tips. Maybe something's changed since the last time I did it, and we try to keep up to date. But they're all safe space. We do not record them. No one is put on the spot, and you're able to work with other MVPs or Microsoft employees. And it's always a follow-up too. You always have opportunities to follow up. So, it's a really great opportunity. We invite anyone to join or reach out if you'd like to learn more, or you have an idea for a session. We're growing the Sharing is Caring team, and we're looking for more sessions. And of course, now on my team, I'll be looking to generate a little bit more Power Platform, and also where the things mix, right? How can Power Platform and the greater M365 kind of work together? Because we know that those technologies, as we move forward,
overlap a lot.
Yeah, a lot of overlapping circles, and it's really important and powerful for anybody to know more than just the one thing that they're passionate about and see, well, okay, cool, how can I use Power Automate along with SharePoint or any of those other mixtures of technologies?
Yep, absolutely. Now coming back on the quickly on the Sharing is Caring, it is also, by the way, a great way of getting your first batch, because you are actually contributing, so you're actually then able to sign up for the recognition program, and you will get your first batch and then move forward from there. So one step at a time, collecting more of them. So which is a great thing to do. Now, coming back on the second thing, which kind of a touch there is really important, is that we're trying to, one of the key points in the community, and me and David are really aligned on this, and so are all of our PnP team members and everything. We're trying to really think through this in a way that it's cross-pollination. Cross-pollination is probably the easiest way to explain that. Rather than trying to think in an isolated way, let's try to figure out, okay, so what if I would use this in here? Oh, there's a new opportunities, and then people learn. So not like really opening up a new opportunities for people to understand that if I combine that and that, boom, then it will become to be as, hey, I will have a good example here.
Oh,
so
here comes.
If you combine all of them, it comes to be an ultra. But yeah, so not focused on isolated individual thing, but really on the power of the platform. If you think about if in the broader spectrum, if you think about the opportunities in the Microsoft Cloud, they're just endless. You can combine stuff in Microsoft 365, in Microsoft Teams, in Power Platform, then some backend system in Logic apps, and then an Azure function, and all of that, and you have beautiful solution in place. So, and to be able to understand enough of everything to be able to put the bits and pieces together is really the key, rather than being like, no, I don't want to listen to that stuff. I don't wanna. So
right, yeah. Well, it can be overwhelming too, right? I mean, it's like there's not a talk that we have or a session that we lead or anything where we say, okay, who doesn't feel overwhelmed by the amount of technology? It's like we all are like, yeah, I'm trying to keep up with what happened 5 minutes ago, right? And so you kind of have to know a little bit about everything. You can have a passionate area of focus, and that's good. You really should, because you want to be really good at something. But having awareness of how all these things can work together, and then also not feeling like you need to be an expert in all of them. But maybe that's where the power of the community comes in, and broadening to the the wide community, not just an individual technology community. Is okay, now I've got all these contacts, and I may not know a lot about list formatting. Maybe I'm focused on Power Platform, and I may not know a lot about list formatting or SPFX, but now I'm part of this greater community where we're all here to help one another. I know so-and-so, Hugo, knows tons about SPFX, so I can go talk to him, or Bo Cameron, or list formatting. Of course, we think of Arjun or Chris Kent or someone like that. Or I want to learn more about documentation. Let me go talk to Emily. Or I want to blog. Let me go talk to Louisa. So it's being part of the greater community gives you a network of people where you may not know the technology, but you know someone that does know the technology. Like Tracy Vanderschiff always says, I don't know everything, but I know someone that does, right?
Yeah,
and that's the power of the community, really.
And even if you think about that from a persona perspective and highly subjective from a personal perspective, I've never been like focused on networking because I feel that like that intentional networking for the networking sense makes you feel artificial, and it's more on, hey, so Dada, let's have a chat on, hey, how you doing? And that's like, well, no, thank you, no, that's not really for it. But then with the community, as we're being our individual selves, you get to know the other people because, hey, after a while, you get to contribute together, you get to be together, you present somewhere together, or you build a GitHub sample together, even though you haven't actually met the person in real world. And that's the magical piece of the technology. We can actually do this anywhere within the world, given that we have a semi-reliable network connectivity in the internet. That's the only requirement. And then even anybody across the world, by starting contributing in a GitHub, they can be well-known people, known by the community across the world, which is kind of mind-blowing when I think about it. The opportunity is there. So
yeah. I mean, you mentioned like contributing together, presenting together with friends that we've never even met in person, and that's live and in living color. We've done that. I don't even know how many times now, because another part of sharing is caring is we have the buddy system, which will take someone who's maybe new to presenting or would like to be supported by someone else in their presentation, and couple you together with someone else who's a little more experienced with presenting, and then you can work on it together. And whether it means that you're building the sample together or you're building the presentation together, or a combination thereof. And we've had that happen now in a number of times, and that's pretty cool to see, and to see someone go from just getting kicked off in the community, reaching out, wanting to be part of something, becoming an MVP, and then becoming members of our PnP team are in that same position. So it's really, really been encouraging.
Coming as an MSFD like you are, so coming through that whole pipeline. So it's really, really cool. So it's and it really proves that anything, well, it is just a matter of getting involved and basically saying, not like you don't need to intentionally say in 5 years I will be in 5 years. What are you going to do in 5 years? I have no idea what I'm going to do tomorrow, to be honest. I've never thought about that stuff. But it's more on, well, I feel good about doing this stuff, at least personally, and then I keep on doing something and keep on improving and adding things, and then other people are like, hey, that seems to be like a nice thing. Let's start doing together, and then you get stuff rolling, and all of a sudden you get to be a bit more than you were maybe asking for being. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and don't, we have a lot of these formal programs here because we know that sometimes just sending a one-on-one message to ask for help can be a little bit intimidating, right? Like, I mean, I will be vulnerable here. I will say when I first started out, sending like a message to Vesa or Waldek or about anything, or Patrick about like wanting to present on a call, I would craft it and I would read it and be like, is there anything that sounds weird there? Is there anything that's going to sound insulting or offensive or weird or make me sound stupid, right? You obsess over that stuff because you're worried about how it's going to be perceived. But we want everyone to be involved. If you want to present, if you want to get involved, if you want to contribute, we want to help. And don't be afraid to reach out. So some of these things have been set up in formal ways because it's easier to say, fill out a form. I want a buddy. I want assistance in learning how to contribute. Then sending a one-on-one message or a DM that says, could you help me? Because sometimes that does fall through the cracks. Like you said, we're only human. We scale. So I certainly apologize if I've gotten any messages that I've not replied to.
And I know that those happens. So unfortunately, it's just inevitable. So it's just.
But some of these have been set up to make it easier for the community to say, hey, I want to be involved. And then once you start showing that, you've got, like you said, you've got the opportunity. If you want to be an MVP, if you want to reach out for more stuff, then it's certainly there and available.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, from a timing perspective, we're running, again, knowing about the time consumption, but I wanted to actually put you on a spot still. What would be your 3 tips for anybody who's watching this as I want to be part of the community? I really want to learn how to get started on doing this and consuming and contributing in this open source programs, which for sure is beneficial for anybody's career. What would be the 3 or 5 tips, whatever you come to mind on your side?
35 tips. There'll be, no, I'm just kidding.
35, yes.
As you said, right? 35,
book, so.
3 to 5. I'll go with 3. I'll go with 3. One is ask for help. Right now, I understand that we just mentioned that sometimes that can be hard, but we have some formal processes in place for you to ask for help, or again, just reach out and ask for help. But don't be afraid to ask for help, because everyone in the community wants to help. And even if it's just, I need like 5 or 10 minutes to kind of get some guidance. So definitely make it known that you want to contribute, and don't be afraid to say, I'd like to contribute in this area. Do you have any advice, any guidance, or could we do something together? Number 2, I would say don't be afraid to collaborate. So Vesa had mentioned that earlier. I think it does wonderful things. It allows you to get to know your community better, and then you're going to learn something about maybe a technology you didn't know that assists you, and you're going to make a friend in the community. And I can't tell you how many times, even just this last week, there were some folks in the community that I met for the first time, but we have collaborated online for now a couple years during COVID and all that. And it was really awesome to be able to meet them in person and be like, wow, this is amazing. First time we're meeting, but we already have this established relationship because of the collaboration that was being done. So don't be afraid to ask someone to work with you to co-present, or to work on a sample together. And it may take longer because logistics, right, in different areas of the world, and coordinating time and all that. But the end result would be worth it. And then number 3, sign up for our recognition program. Really passionate about that, as you can tell, because it's such a wonderful way to be recognized, to be celebrated for all of anyone in the community. And we want that really to be something that's real and ongoing and persistent for as long as we can sustain it.
Absolutely, and we're committed on bringing new batches in, keeping the existing batches up to date. They're yearly based, so basically the batches will expire by end of this year. No, well, not really, but you'll have that batch for this year, but then you will get another one for the following year, because that's, again, it shows commitment when people are contributing numerous times and being part of the community, not just for the one-time recognition, but rather consistently being involved, which is a super key as well. So
exactly, absolutely.
Good. I guess from a timing perspective, it's better to close up. We can go, of course, go on this topic for many times, like we do in it multiple times in a week anyway. But this is good for closing up on the podcast and the recording. Thank you, David, for your consistent years and years worth of commitment on the behalf of the community and getting involved and actually helping the PnP community to grow even more. So helping with the sharing is caring initiatives and all of that to be even bigger and more welcoming, which is really the key for the new audiences and new audiences sounds super official. New community members, because that's what we want. We want to help people, and that's where all of this is coming from. And we do, by the way, acknowledge that not everybody wants to be involved. They have a limited time of their usage. They want to prioritize their business and family, as like it should be, family always first. But for those who want to be involved and contribute, we want to make it as easy as possible to get involved. And you've been fundamental of making that step forward, David. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think one, it's a team effort. It's, as we always talk about, we need to scale, and that wouldn't be possible without all the rest of the amazing contributors in the community and members of the PnP team, yourself, and all the others that are just amazing. It's a team effort. So really appreciate it. And thank you for giving me, as well as everyone else, the opportunity to do that, which I think is really empowering.
I don't understand why I'm the one who's giving these permissions, but it's all the people who are involved. And exactly. Of course, we are always looking to grow also our PnP team. We're always looking for new MVPs in the Microsoft side of the house, and the open source community contribution is the easiest way to get involved and really to be recognized by Microsoft as an MVP and also by the community. So the peers in the community recognizing what you actually contributed, which is super cool as well. But I guess that's it, David. Thank you for the kind words, and we'll jump on the weekly articles with Waldek. And it's a bit weird. We're going to do the intro with Waldek, then we're going to jump on this interview with you without Waldek, and then Waldek is back. But that's how it works on this time. But thanks, David, and congratulations for joining Microsoft as well.
Thanks for having me on the show today.
Not a problem. Thank you. Cheers. And welcome back, Waldek. So. How was the interview? Oh, you didn't. You were not there. I know. Now
it was the best interview ever, and David is awesome guest as always.
Well, that's true. That is true. There's no doubt for that. So, thank you, David, on joining us, and thank you for all the awesome stuff that you do as part of our community work. And you've been really fundamental person on growing the mental mindset of sharing and really showing the value of the community for others. So, of course, we need different kind of people. There's people who contribute with samples, people who contribute with documentation, the people who contribute with demos, and then we need those people who are coordinating and helping all of that to happen, and being still and focusing on the diverse and inclusiveness and making the community be welcoming for everybody, which is really cool. So, thank you, David. You are one of the showcase persons doing that in the right way worldwide. So thank you for that. Cool. Let's actually then jump on the article side. It was a pretty slow week. So
it is, and we're trying to understand what is going on. And there are a few events that are taking place as we record this. So there is the Microsoft 365 conference in Vegas. There is the European Power Platform conference, and maybe there are some other events as well. But that means that people are traveling, attending, or just busy doing work.
But that when you're saying that out loud, it's actually pretty crazy to say it. So people are now this week. People are saying in multiple locations, in person conferences. They're coming back.
That cannot be the case. That cannot be the case. I don't believe it.
Yes. Pixar didn't happen. No, actually, we saw the pictures in social media.
It did happen. Yes.
And then at the same time, having at least personal a bit of FOMO because not being there, and of course, I had the opportunity of going to Las Vegas as well. As I said, no, because I don't want to sit in the plane for 15 hours.
Exactly.
So
it's exactly that. Like, it's nice to be there for an hour or for a few hours, but going there, travel. And then being there the whole day, I don't know.
Anyway, let's talk about all of that.
Yes.
We're a bit derailing on the subject.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? So David Russell, who is a senior program manager, had a new blog post in the Microsoft 365 platform blog related on from zero to hero, connecting web app to Microsoft Teams using Azure Communication Services. Waldek, what is this all about?
This ties very much into the notion of, like, in the past we talked a lot about, imagine you build your LOB app, you want to bring that app to Teams so that you show, or your app or your LOB data shows it within the context of people's work. But there's also this other way to bring productivity of Microsoft 365 into your apps, because just as much as Teams, Outlook, and Office are places where people work, they also work in LOB apps. So why should collaboration be exclusive to Teams? Why shouldn't that be an option within your app? So imagine that in your app, you build an app. And I guess typical scenarios that we see around that are things like finance advisory or healthcare, where you want to have a call with an advisor about your mortgage or your health with a doctor, Like, imagine that you want to have that ability in your app. Well, you can spend millions and try to build, the right abilities to have video calling and chat in your app. But why? Why not integrate whatever is available to you? And that is exactly what Azure Communication Services, ACS for short, offer, right? So they offer the ability to bring Teams, actually these abilities to call, to have the chats for, into your apps without you having to build that by yourself.
It's the same, of course, it's the same backend in the end. It's just the backend and functionalities and services are as reliable and working as reliably, and the scale is there anyway. But it's a different way of accessing the functionalities and services in Microsoft Teams. Really, really cool stuff. And this is a really good also because a good blog post because it actually starts from getting started, the basics. How would I actually, not focusing on the Uber scenarios, which yes, we need to have that inspiration, but also we need to have the basics of actually showing what are the baseline, what to do to get started on making things happen, so that then you can catch up, understand, okay, now I know the baseline. Okay, let's start now adding additional stuff on top of it. So really, really cool stuff and multiple videos from David on the topic. So thank you, David, on that. Really, really great stuff on this. And a super interesting functionality for sure. Now, we also had this blog post related on announcing new Microsoft 365 unified sample gallery with more than 1,000 samples, which is really, really, really cool. So this is something what we've been working, that's actually M who wrote down. Now, and this is, it's the James Bond M. So, yeah. Anyway, so this is something what we've been working for quite a long time, actually. So all of this starts from the perspective of we used to have a lot of samples in a GitHub, but then there's this. The feedback was, well, it's great to have a lot of samples in GitHub, but how would I actually find the specific sample to get started? And samples are really, really, really great to really show the art of possible and get inspired and I can do this kind of things in Microsoft 365. That's really cool. But how would I find the one which is relevant for me, for my business case and for my use case? So we then created this model where all of the different specific samples had a isolated sample galleries. But then there's the challenge of, well, okay, but quite often you have a sample which is actually using multiple things. So it's an ACE, it's a Teams or whatever. And also the isolated sample galleries promote the isolation of services and products, which is not the case. It is the same baseline across all of the services. It's the stack of Microsoft 365, not isolated individual product. So what we wanted to do then is to have a one centralized location to actually surface all of those samples. And this is the first version out of it. We will keep on evolving that. But what's really, really cool is that we have already numerous products filtering available, and you can also deep dive in the individual views of the personas. So you can actually see, as a community member, you can go and see, oh, these are all of the samples which the community member or community member has contributed. So, and we also talked about how to get the samples in a gallery. One thing what I wanted to actually call out here is that we're getting every now and then question on why do you want to have the sample inside of your organization or inside of the Microsoft 365 platform community organization. And this is actually for PR and continuity reasons. So as if the sample is in a separate GitHub organization or your persona sample thing, which is a great way of sharing samples for sure, we do not know the life cycle of that sample. So we cannot guarantee that it will work. We cannot guarantee that that it will be there within tomorrow, because anytime the person can actually delete the repo. So that's why we're looking into getting the samples in a centralized location. We can test them out, we can validate them. We know when there's changes and updates, and nobody can do any nice tricks on changing the picture to be something offensive or whatever, because those things have happened in an alternative approaches. So that's the clarity on here and why we're doing that. Now, let me actually show this quickly because we don't have that many topics to cover today. I had it already open. See?
Yeah.
Too fast. So we can access the samples from the front page. We can filter the samples based on the product. We're adding all the time new samples across the GitHub. So this is just the start, but it is a quite decent start with 1,053 samples. So it's actually pretty
decent start.
You can always improve. But as an example, if I be looking for Microsoft Teams meeting application samples, I would do something like meeting and Microsoft Teams, and poof, it filters down on 10 sample, and then I can actually start looking at those individual samples. So now I then can go, for example, Marcus Muller has been doing absolutely great samples on the Microsoft Teams meeting app side of the house. So I can go and have a look on the individual sample, and I can also go and have a look on the different samples what Marcus has done. So first of all, on the individual sample level, I can have a look on what it is. The description here is pretty short, but what it is, have a look on the picture. If there's multiple pictures or videos, I can see them in here. If I decide to actually have a closer look, I can go to the GitHub. I can download it from GitHub if needed. Or I can also go to the individual view of the contributor. And this is actually a really cool feature because then this means that I can have a look on all of the samples what Marcus or anybody else from the community has contributed. And all of this is deep linking as well, which is really, really cool. So there's a link which you can share and say, these are the community samples, what we've been contributing for the community. Really, really cool stuff. And the information, what we're saying here is all coming from the GitHub as well. So it's not saved or stored anywhere within our site. You're happy with this, Waldek?
Absolutely, because if there's one thing that we hear a lot is that, or we actually hear two things, all right, that samples are really important to show what's possible on 365, right? And then basically, like a picture says 1,000 words, I think sample says 2,000. Because you can actually see things in action. It's not just an image. You can see how things work, and that helps so much everybody to imagine what they could do and how they could work in their environment, because often a sample, you can run it in your own environment with the data that's relevant to you, and with that is that one step closer to understand how that would work and what the benefit would be for you, right? And then another thing that we hear a lot is that it's hard to find samples. It's hard to find things that I need, right? Like, because oftentimes you are being asked to showcase X, a feature, an area, ability, and so forth and so on. And to be able to have that sample right on time when you need that, it's hard. It's also hard to, like, if you look here, like we have over 1,000 samples, like, so new samples are being shared every day, and it's hard to stay on top of all of them, right? So having a single place across all of Microsoft 365 where you can find latest samples shared by everybody else is brilliant, because it's just a single place. You don't need to scatter all of the internet, all of GitHub, all different repos. You just have one place, and you can filter and find the things you need directly from here within minutes or even less.
Yeah, this is really, really cool. And we're looking into improving this as well. So we have a vision related on more specific metadata filtering. So is the sample coming from Microsoft? Is it coming from community? Or is it using this graph API? And you're able to kind of filter down on that particular sample, what you're looking for. But we wanted to release the first version before that improved filtering mechanism is available. All of that is in the roadmap and in plans to make it easier. But feedback welcome. So please let us know how do you like it and how can we improve this. So really, really cool stuff. So cool. And thank you for all of the contributors who've been involved on contributing the samples, and also some of you have been involved on actually creating content and the structure, what we are using behind of the scenes for the whole automation. So really, really cool stuff. Thank you for that. Now, Jarpas Horst had a blog post related on Graph API news. API for managing shared channel now available in Microsoft Graph. What is a shared channel? What does this mean?
It is a channel you can share with external users, right? So we have this ability now to invite externals and share a channel with them, as opposed to only have a channel for folks within the same org.
Yep, absolutely. Really, really cool stuff. So, and it's great to see every single week there's new APIs in the Microsoft Graph across the whole stack, like it should be. It is the one gateway for all of the information in the Microsoft 365. So really, really great to see the steps going forward. Now, this one's interesting from last week as well, from Prasham Sabardra. Microsoft 365 SPFX or React app error property does not exist read-only while accessing state properties. So a good kind of a helper blog post again, related on when you're using a specific set of controls or a specific set of things, how do I actually solve the issue? So these are really, really worth of gold. So thank you for sharing and how to resolve the issue. So the more and more we get, this is actually in a while back in history, like 10 years ago, people used to blog more about these findings, right?
Yeah. I guess maybe by now we logged already all the errors you can get.
All
and
of
you can
them.
just find.
That's true. Maybe
unexpected error. There is an article about that. Is it the unexpected errors? You having? I don't know, but there's probably an article about unexpected error.
Something also what we started this week is a new Getting Started series, which is a series of videos targeting on getting started across the Microsoft 365. So we only have now 4 videos released, and this is a daily series, a new series, where we use MVPs and cloud advocates, Microsoft employees to create this kind of a targeted 5-minute videos. But as I'm watching, here, that's 6:15, 6:46.
6 is
but
the new 5.
Short. It's a 6 is to new 5, yes. But really kind of focusing on a specific topic and how to make things happen. So and getting familiar with things. And what we're trying to do with this is really help on the new audience and new people who are arriving to the community. We are getting more and more people driving to Microsoft 365 all the time to have an easy starting point. I need to do X and Y and Z. Hey, there's a video for it. Awesome. I can just make it happen. So we're looking into doing this, as said, as a daily series. There's going to be a new video on every single day across the different areas of Microsoft 365 and tooling and SDKs and UX and all of that stuff. So we have now, I think we have queue for like 3 weeks now, and we're generating more videos every single day. So
cool. That is really cool.
Super helpful for sure. And again, feedback welcome, and if there's any topic ideas which we should be focusing, let us know. Those are really, really valuable for us to know as well. Now, Paolo Pialorsi had 200 episode on his BSS Tech Bites, which is really, really, really cool. And this one was around site-selected application permission for Microsoft Graph and SharePoint APIs. So basically, how does the site-selected works? What does it actually mean? And site-selected permission gives you the option of targeting application to have access in Azure AD through Azure AD to a specific site collection of those sites. So
yes,
rather than the whole tenant, which has been a bit of a challenge in the past. So a bit of a challenge. So we're getting there, getting better and better. So thank you, Paolo, on that. Really great 8 minutes to spend as well. Now, we also had a new video from Shane Young. He keeps on releasing new videos, great videos every single week, which is awesome, really, really cool stuff. And this focuses on the same series as last week, related on responsiveness in the Power Apps, but now focusing on the header and footer components and debugging. So thank you, Shane, for that. These videos are getting huge amount of views, and they're so beneficial for the large and growing audience of Power Platform, on especially in Power Apps, on getting started on things. So thank you, Shane, on that. And then the last video, we were supposed to do.
You can do all of them. I'm enjoying the show. I have my drink, popcorn here. Like I'm just enjoying the show. Like, yeah,
wow.
I'll let you talk. It's okay. It's okay.
You know, I'm a typical Finns don't talk.
Yes, you actually never do. You're so quiet. It's like at times it's like, Vesa, are you still there? So anyway. On that note, you want me to intro, of course. So we have also a new video from one of our MVPs, Giuliano De Luca, about how you can target content in SharePoint with dynamic groups. And the idea is that with targeting, you can ensure that the right group of people will see the content that they need. Dynamic group gives you this additional ability that you don't need to manage who belongs to which group, because in a scale of a big org, like that is a lot of work. So you have the ability to create rules, like people with specific job title or office location, geography, function, and whatever can belong to a group. And based on that, you can target the content that you create to be shown to them.
Really, really cool. This is actually a really good example. Just by an accident, actually zoomed in here. No, it was by design. I was planning to do this, but that's a really good example of how do you define a dynamic group. So if a user type is, for example, guest, then that defines the user to be part of that group. So you can use this attributes in the Azure AD to dynamically then resolve person to be in a group, rather than somebody again manually updating the distribution lists or groups or whatever like we used to do back in the times, and that was horrible. So thank God, evolution in the technologies here. So cool. What else is happening? What's happening on your side?
What else is happening? I had prepped all of that up front because I knew you would ask, and I forgot about it.
That's good. That's really good. So.
No, so we are, as I think we mentioned that already earlier in the previous episode, that we're in the early stage of getting feedback for the POC that we run around Angular, right? So how can we help Angular devs to build apps for teams? So we have something that we shared with a few folks to get early feedback before we share to a bigger group, just to ensure that we didn't miss anything big in there. So you should be seeing and hearing us talk more and more about it. We released a new command for CLI for Untitled that allows you to validate your Sharepoint framework projects. We talked about that too, but just in case you missed the recording, here is a recap, right?
Yes.
Other than that, what's coming? Oh yeah, that is it. So by the time you watch the recording, or maybe you've already seen that, on the next platform call, which will be on April the 12th, I believe, we're going to show a cool demo, a cool sample that you might have seen and you might recall from Ignite 2021. We showed a short demo around well-being and how can you use tools within Microsoft 365 to build a solution that allows companies communicate to their employees the well-being perks that they offer, right? So we showed a sample of that, but it was just a part of the demo during Ignite. Well, now
short,
that's
like 2 minutes.
Exactly. So now the cool thing is, drumroll, that sample will be available to all of you to run in your tenants, and we work together with one of our MVPs. It's secret with whom, so you will see all of that on the next platform call on April the 12th. So we will talk about that. We will talk about the background, but also we will do a demo, how it works, what pieces it has, how it's built. We'll show code, right? So you will be able to see all of that in action and then actually grab sample and use it in your own environment. So stay tuned for that. Anything else? And we have the usual rhythm of things where we keep building evolving CLI for Microsoft 365 with new features and improvements. We keep getting more and more pull requests, which is really awesome to see. Like at times it also feels like it comes and goes very much in waves. These are these waves where we get a lot of attention. People are really awesome to help with things. And it's really great because it shows like, wow, there's a lot of work for us to review, merge, and approve and release, because these are all improvements that will help in the end everybody. So it's really cool to see. We're working on that. And then in parallel, we're preparing. Yes, we're also doing a lot of work with another group of MVPs for an event for Microsoft Tech Days, which will be available online. Sorry?
On the 5th of May.
Yes, May the 5th. There will be an online event, 2 hours event, where you will see live a cool solution, again, built on Microsoft 365. So scenario, solution, I think we have a link to an announcement article about that and detail the reg page and all of that. So we would definitely highly recommend that you join, because it's just 2 hours of your time. We will show code, and it's something that you can apply to your work directly, right? So it's not, like high-level overviews.
Maybe,
Exactly. These are practical things that you can benefit from today already. So we would highly recommend that you join us on May the 5th and see what you can pick up for your work.
Yep.
What about you, Vesa?
Build preparations are starting, and that's one of the reasons most likely why it was a slow week from Microsoft's side, on top of the big conferences, of course. So people are focusing on build is on 20th of May, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that. I know that
in that week. It is in around that
week. But of course, as it's a remote conference, we need to get the video recordings, all of that in the place, and all on-demand sessions in place and all of that. So the storylines and demos and all of that has to be locked pretty soon. And then SPFX 1.15 next preview was supposed to come this week. Unfortunately, it didn't. I did a live demo on that on Tuesday, but we found, as part of my validation for the demo, we found a few things, and then we need to test those so that it provides additional value as we're pushing it out. So that should be good. But already, if you watch on the recording from 5th of April, there is a 15 minutes on the how you do extensibility on lists with SPFX, which is actually really cool. So overriding the whole.
You mean
experience.
forms, the list forms.
List forms.
Yes.
Yes, new component type. So, and that's something
People
that has been requested for.
Ask for that, yeah. Only for a few weeks, right?
Yeah. Anyway, so that's for sure. And then of course a lot of other stuff getting ready for the build. But there's going to be a lot of products and services going to go GA in build, and as part of those GA announcements. So now we're doing validation with the different tools across the world, making sure that everything is working properly, which is always cool. So, but it's also one of the most frustrating things which I remember before moving to Microsoft was moving to engineering, was that I was one of the persons who were always testing the SharePoint 2010, SharePoint 2013, created the training materials. Mm-hmm. Ignite or excitement and the presentations and videos and all of that. And we got a new build every single night pretty much. And then you install the build and you never know, is it you or is it the software which is broken? It is so annoying. So because there's always this like, yeah, but I want to have a preview access on things. Do you really want to have a preview access on things? Because you do not know. Is the mistake on your code? Is it mistake in the service? Is it mistake in the service?
And I mean, back then, installing SharePoint wasn't trivial because you had to head a whole farm with servers, with things.
Hours and hours of time. You get it installed, and then it doesn't work.
Tomorrow, and guess what? You will have another build.
Exactly. So that's always the kind of one of the learnings is that yes, it's so cool to get access on previous stuff, but do you really want to get access on the previous stuff? Because the previous stuff doesn't necessarily work. So now we're now validating and testing, build this in end of May and then shipping stuff to GA. We can still do final validations at this point, and it's a bit rough on the edges, but it's always so. It's fine.
Like that's
part of the game.
Early access, right? I mean, it's just
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Cool. Anyway, I guess that's it for this week. Thank you, Waldek. Thank you, David, one more time. Awesome to have you, and congratulations one more time. We've been saying this countless of times, us joining on Microsoft. So really, really great to have you as a colleague, and continuing, of course, our partnership now on this side, which is really, really cool. So thank you for that. Other than that, thank you, Waldek.
Thank you, Vesa.
That sounded really bad. What are you saying? Anyway, thanks everybody. We'll be back within a week with a new PnP Weekly episode. Have a great week. We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye.